Today, I would like to talk about the quasi-government. What is the quasi-government term? Quasi-government in the formal context or term is to referring to the hybrid entities or organization with some legal relationship or association to the federal government. The common characteristic to these entities or organization in the quasi-government is that they are not agency of the government but borrow structural characteristics from both the public governments and the private sectors. Incorporated as a private, non-profit organization but run by a board of directors that is composed of government officials or directors appointed by a unit of government. In other words, this is a private company that is made up of supported by a branch of government with a public mandate to provide a given service. For example, TNB and Shabazz. In exchange for their services, they often receive some form of partial funding from the state. It must generally prioritize its government mandate over creating value and profit for shareholders. These types of corporations should not be viewed as risk-free investment because of their ties to the government. The purpose of quasi-government we can see from the aspect of government and market failure, commitment, selection of rules, facilitating trust, and limiting debt liability. In the business, the government is willing to pay for additional services, but to get the optimal level of service, they need to overcome the problem of collective action or market failure, and elected officials focus on different political options. By combining public and private elements, it allows business to overcome these barriers to arrange higher quality services for the district and state. Commitment. From a commitment point of view to projects that require specialized expertise, government funding has the risk of being stopped as a result of government removal, and public departments could be abolished depending on the general election. But the transfer of ownership of public property to a lawful private institution can prevent such a thing from happening. Leaders of private organizations typically place themselves less constrained by public will than those with nominal public entities. Selection of rules. It can be a way to choose the rules of law to be used. Public entities are often required to comply with laws relating to public meetings and access to the records, conflicts of interest rules, personal financial disclosure, whistleblowers protection, and personnel policies. It usually rules that provide for judicial review of agency decisions. The government entities must comply with federal and state. Their officers often get immunity from lawsuit. Therefore, private entities are bound by different needs. The use of quasi-government rather than a purely public form can be a way to withdraw from the various legal requirements that constrain public administrators. Facilitating trust. People will trust an organization based on the type of legal status chosen during incorporation rather than how independent an organization is from a government based on the metric such as presence of government officials on the board or extent of government contracting. Limiting debt liability. Much like a company might form subsidiary to undertake a new real estate project or enterprise without risking the parent company's assets, the government could create non-profit organization to immunize itself from debt or liability from a risk new endeavor.
Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Muhammad. For my part, I will identify and explain a quasi-government in Malaysia. Also, I will elaborate on the role that the quasi-government have involved in terms of urban and economic development in Malaysia. As mentioned before by Puan Liza, TNB is one of the quasi-government in Malaysia. TNB or Tenaga Nasional Berhad has been established as Malaysia's largest electricity utility. TNB is a Malaysian multinational electricity company and is the only electrical utility company in Peninsular Malaysia. Also, the largest publicly listed power company in Southeast Asia. Moving on to the role of TNB as the quasi-government. Firstly, TNB supply electrical energy and it is very committed doing so. In developing country, electricity is needed. Having TNB who provide and supply the electricity in the nation has helped the rapid development. Believe it or not, our country has been built by electrons. For over 70 years, TNB has worked together to drive this Malaysia economy. The commitment to the national development has rewarded one and all. Small, medium and large-scale industries have emerged and grown. This is due to the energy supply by TNB. By providing a good electrical energy, commercial and industry will manage to improve the development. As our country GDP come from this particular sector. This proves that TNB fulfill the commitment on helping the nation. The large capital of TNB from the sales of electrical and investors managed to help Malaysia not only in the development but also in economy of the nation. TNB aim to always be ready to not only face this disruption but also find opportunities to thrive while creating value for the country. As a responsible organization, they are committed to embedding sustainability at the core of decision-making process and integrating it across value chain. They aspire to continue driving sustainable development for our country by delivering reliable and affordable energy, embracing innovation, and further empowering our people. Thus, at the same time, it suits the SDG goal that our country want to achieve. Next is the selection of rules. In delivering the service, TNB has managed to follow the selection rules by the government. TNB is a public listed company registered under Companies Act 1965. It's charged with the following responsibility: to generate, transmit, distribute and sell energy to consumers throughout Peninsular Malaysia, to plan, install, operate and maintain electricity installation for generation, transmission and distribution of electricity. To achieve the objective, the company owns and operates power plants and the national grid, and installed for this purpose are consumer service centers. By distributing this division, they manage to follow the rules and regulations. Building trust. As in 2017, Quasi TNB government, one of the first listed corporation to embark on the ISO 37001, which is the Anti-Bribery Management System (ABMS) certification. Towards achieving this certification, TNB launched the TNB Corporate Integrity Management System. This is upon to building trust to the stakeholders so that they manage to overcome any problem in the future. Upon the 5 principles of the integrity that TNB has adopted, first principle is to follow all such regulations and guidelines. Second, perform our best ability with very high standard whilst continuously improving the quality of our service. Next, they adopt an open and honest attitude in all aspects. Fourth, deliver products and service to customer as pledged. And lastly, by having pride in contributing to TNB success. Having this particular principle of integrity manage them to build trust to the stakeholder and the government as part of the Quasi government. Lastly, the role of the NB as a Quasi government is to limit the debt liability. The NB has a capital more than 100 millions. The capital of the NB is the proof itself. This high income of the NB has managed to help the government to limit their debt liability, not only in developing the country but particularly in economic growth. The NB high revenue helped Malaysia to sustain the growth and economy.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Fakrina and I'm going to talk about the issues and challenges of Quasi government toward urban and economic development in Malaysia. The first issues of Quasi government toward urban and economic development in Malaysia is hybrid organizations as contributing to the government's weakened ability to carry out its fundamental constitutional duties. Unsurprisingly, the Quasi government is a contentious topic. The proper goal of governmental management, according to supporters of this trend toward greater reliance on hybrid organizations, is to maximize performance and results, however defined. According to them, the private and public sectors are fundamentally similar and thus are subject to the same academically derived behavioral norms. They are generally supportive of the growing use of quasi-governmental organizations. Critics of the quasi-government, on the other hand, see hybrid organizations as contributing to the government's weakened ability to carry out its fundamental constitutional duties, as well as to a loss of political accountability, which is a critical component of democratic governance. They tend to see the public and private sectors are legally separate entities with little overlap in behavioral norms. The next issues and challenges of quasi-government in Malaysia is people who believe in traditional public law principles and people who believe in entrepreneurial approaches have very different ideas about the quasi-government. People who believe in traditional public law principles and those who believe in entrepreneurial approaches have very different ideas. This is because their basic assumptions are very different. In general, those who favor entrepreneurial management tend to place a lot of value on managerial flexibility and the setting of numerical goals for performance. Many people don't like hierarchical leadership structures because they think they're bad. They say that managers should change and take risk. This set of values about how government management should be done makes the hybrid organization into quasi-government a good idea. The focus of management has changed from citizens to customers and departments have been split up. Departmental integration has been replaced by agency dispersion and managers have more power. These people think that political accountability and the due process are being pushed aside by the importance of performance and results. No matter how they are defined, it's not just a matter of convenience that the wall between the public and private sectors is being broken down. Public sector experts help entrepreneurs are building a web of public and private develop long-term strategic plans, find new business opportunities, and redefine their social status to meet government demands and social economic changes. It also provides auditing and other financial services, as well as consulting services tailored to each client's need. These services include operational and human resource consulting, which manage task efficiency and process improvement respectively. Thus, the solutions for these issues and challenges is, first, long-term strategic plans and marketing strategies such as developing new business plans are being considered. Next is audit, M&A advisory, CFO services, and finance-related services such as financial management plan development, financial forecasting, process improvement, and strategic enterprise management system development. Job analysis, personnel evaluation, and long-term human resource planning. Also, management of enterprise risk and financial risk by the Quasi development. And lastly is integrating appropriate response measures into management evolution. Thank you so much for listening and focusing to this video to the last moment. This is all from Nur Fakrina, Muhammad, and Liza Bakar.